Thank you, Subi. You're getting better and better all the time. What happened significant in your week, Rakesh?
It was good, Prabhuji. Nothing significant happened, but nothing drastic also happened, so it's good.
Nothing too good, nothing too bad, huh?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Rob, how was your week?
I mean, it's been okay, all things considered. I contracted COVID, so I've been fairly sick this week and isolating. So just trying to work through the sickness and get better.
What are the symptoms?
Pretty much all of them: headache, body aches, fever, coughing, sneezing.
You know where you got it from? Any idea?
Yeah, I had dinner at my sister's place on Sunday, and she tested positive 2 days later. And then
Wow.
A couple days after that, I started getting the symptoms. So
Well, we pray you get over it really quickly. Do you, as a farmer, do you work on a regular hourly basis or seasonally, or what do you do?
it's seasonal. So I don't have anything that I'm missing out on right now, really, besides just being able to do normal things. So
Great. You want to come down to Spanish Fork someday when you're better and look at our operation, check
I
it
would
out,
love to do
give us
that.
your advice. They also have, you know, about the permaculture in Salt Lake City too, right?
I do.
Yeah, Randy, you've talked to Randy, haven't you?
I've not had the opportunity to talk to him yet.
Yeah, he's the main guy there, and he's there most Saturday nights. He was there last night. Yeah. Well, we hope you all get to feeling better.
Thank you.
Surabi, anything noteworthy about your week?
Just the usual week, Charu Prabhu. Hare Krishna, everyone. Um, just reading Bhagavad Gita and reading Bhagavatam here and there, and waiting for this class to happen on Sunday.
Did I read where your husband got a particular honor in the Utah Society of Inventors?
Yes, he did.
What was that? It was made a senior member, wasn't he?
Yes.
That's a great honor.
Yeah.
What's
Thank you.
his most important invention? In layman's terms, I'm sure we couldn't understand the specifics.
Mostly it is the materials used in batteries. That's the most, uh, like, that's where his focus is for his experiments and all that stuff.
I read about a company, Quantra something, that now they're working on a multi-layered car battery that'll fully charge in 15 minutes.
Charu Prabhu, I am not that. I just know what he tells me and just know what he works. But I don't know if he is reading about them. Though he is very, he's in touch with all the companies who are working on solar panels and quantum. There is one Indian guy, I think you may know him, Mr. Joshi. He
Yeah,
too had a company, so they are in touch with each other and work for each other.
he works in ceramics, I think.
Yeah,
Yoshi.
ceramics. But he sold that recently, 2 years or 3 years ago. But
Yeah,
ceramics, yeah.
I'm sure Dinesh would be interested too, as maybe an investor.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, super. Omkar, tell us anything personal that might have happened of interest, but also give us an overview of the Nityananda festivals on Wednesday, if you don't mind.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandar Pranam. Please accept my humble
Haribol,
obeisances.
Haribol.
My humblest daughter, Senior Vaishnavas here. So it was a pretty busy week for all of us. From last Saturday, Wednesday, and Saturday, yesterday, 3 dressings have been changed of the deities, and we have been pretty engaged in all the day. And Wednesday was the most busiest. All of day were evening. Kapil Prabhu was here Wednesday evening. He was especially came to see the darshan of the deities that day. It was beautiful darshan, and that day we were expecting good crowd because it was wonderful. Ras Vilas Prabhu came afternoon. Ras Vilas Prabhu had a very important submission that afternoon, and he was for on which he was working on 3 days. So he just finished the submission quickly, and 1 p.m. 2 p.m. he came in the temple and started cooking. And but I was there with him. I what I had planned, I will come, I will cut vegetables for him, and I will go and chant my rounds. But when I came and he told me the menu, I understood there was no chance of me leaving the kitchen because there was no, we had to fry puris and Bengali sweets and sabzis, pakoras. I mean, I thought, okay, I just settled in the kitchen until 5 p.m. We both were working there. And 5 p.m. Pradum Naran Prabhu joined us. And by the time Ras Vilas Prabhu was so tired, and he told, I want to prepare for my talk. Just please leave me. Then Amrita Mataji came into the kitchen, and somehow she gave some free time to Ras Vilas Prabhu. He went and prepared for his talk. And I just chanted some rounds, and we started with Abhishekam at 6 p.m. Then Abhishekam was wonderful. Sundari Priya Mataji and Randy Prabhu and had got the deities and Abhishekam was there. It was wonderful class after that on Nityan Prabhu by Rasidas Prabhu. It was so amazing. He spoke for 40 minutes, and he was so well with the facts and with the mood of Lord Nityananda, that he was. It was very connecting with all the newcomers, that who is Lord Nityananda. He was telling with examples, and later we had a wonderful arti and a short ending talk by Govinda Bhakta Prabhu, and there was a wonderful feast with, I guess we had 6 main items that prepared in the temple kitchen, and 15 to 20 items that the devotees brought from their homes for the bhoga of the Lord. So
Wow.
everyone was so happy to honor all the prasadam, and with the, I hope everyone was satisfied, and they went to their home.
Everyone was encouraged to bring their Gornai deities from home, isn't it? Did you notice
Yes,
how many
yes.
sets of Gornai deities were up there on the altar?
Yeah, there were a lot. I suppose there were three sets of deities on the altar that day. I guess some of the devotees were busy, so they couldn't bring them. Still, maybe they'll bring it in the God Purnima or sometimes.
Wonderful. Any personal thing happened to you aside from the festival?
Um, Nothing much. If I happen to remember, probably I'll share it in the later this
Okay.
meeting. Yeah.
Kapilji, we come to you. Anything you want to share about the previous week? You came to the festival. Did you take some pictures and all?
Oh, I came in the evening. I had a conflict later in the evening, so I came before. I took some pictures.
Did they go up on Facebook? I don't.
I think some of the pictures Mataji already put on the Facebook and as well as.
Okay. Ishan, were you there?
No, I wasn't actually.
Okay. You're going
So
to lead.
Ishan had a good week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we had a debate tournament that we won this weekend.
You won it?
Yes.
What was the subject?
So debate or the event I do works on a yearly basis. So like our school year is from August to June, and so the topic stays one no matter what tournament it is. So all like, and the topic for this year or the resolution is criminal justice reform in the United States. And since like it's a school year thing, so right over the summer there was the whole protest and that kind of stuff, and so that's why it was criminal justice reform this year.
Interesting. Interesting. Fantastic. Well, as you know, I had my surgery on Tuesday, and then I had a follow-up on Wednesday afternoon. Quite amazing. When I went in for the follow-up on Wednesday, the nurse put me in the chair and said the doctor will be right in. His name is Benjamin Bruckner with Hoops Vision, and when we first met, he learned I was a Hare Krishna. He said he'd been to the temple, been to a Sunday feast with his wife when they were students at BYU, so he was really favorable. And so I'm sitting there in the chair, and there's an eye chart right across. And I remember the day before, with my left eye, everything was blurry. Even the top was blurry. But as I sat there waiting for the doctor, I looked at this chart, and now I could read even the bottom line. You know, the teeny tiny letters on the bottom line without any glasses. And I thought, wow, the wonders of modern medicine. It's amazing. And, they said after the surgery, a lot of times your eye feels itchy and grainy, so you have to be careful not to rub it. But my eye hasn't felt itchy or grainy at all. It's been fine. Little blurry. At one and the same time, it's sharper, but it's also a little blurry because of the surgery, and that'll clear up. So very, very successful. Recommended to anybody who's got cataracts and wants to correct it. Very simple, easy. The only thing is, the surgery is 15 minutes, and they shine a really bright light into your eye for those 15 minutes. And it's so bright, it's almost painful. So I had a gag reflex, saying, I hope this finishes up quickly, because I felt like a little nauseous because this light is so, and the thing was, I was feeling my forehead, and I was peeling. 2 days later, I was peeling. So that light must have been very powerful, ultraviolet also, because not only was it really bright, but it caused me to get a sunburn. Next day I was really red, and then I started peeling. So that was curious. All right, that was my experience of the past week. Now I can read and study and try to give good classes from now on. At least I won't have any excuse for not giving good classes. So Rakesh, let's go back to you. You want to read the verse and the first paragraph of the purport? And anybody, please jump in with any comments that you have.
I guess Rakesh Prabhu is offline.
All right, then let's go to you, Onkar.
Okay.
Sorry, Prabhuji. Yeah,
No.
I haven't installed today, so I got distracted. I got that message, so I was just replying. Sorry. What verse we are reading, Prabhuji?
1, 2, 20.
1 to 20. Okay, sure, Prabhuji.
Anamanaso.
Yeah, so it's this one. Evam prasanna manaso. Evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogata bhagavad tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Let me say hi also before they disappear from the stream from Komal Oya says Hare Krishna. William Griff from Los Angeles checks in with us. Akash Agarwal said very nice kirtan Subi. And Akash Agarwal also added Haribol to all the Salt Lake City devotees. So they're joining us on Facebook. Yeah.
We miss you.
You know Akash Agarwal?
Yes, I know. We were batchmates. He was 1 year junior to me in the engineering college. We
Oh,
miss you, Akash.
yeah, he's on Facebook, cheering you on now.
Oh, great. So, translation. Thus established in the mode of unalloyed goodness, the man whose mind has been enlivened by contact with devotional service to the Lord gains positive scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead in the stage of liberation from all material association. Should I read one paragraph as well, Prabhuji?
Yes, please, thank you.
In the Bhagavad Gita 7.3, it is said that out of many thousands of ordinary men, one fortunate man endeavors for perfection in life. Mostly men are conducted by the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus they are engaged always in lust, desire, hankerings, ignorance, and sleep. Out of many such man-like animals, there is actually a man who knows the responsibility of human life and thus tries to make life perfect by following the prescribed duties. And out of many thousands of such persons who have thus attained success in human life, one may know scientifically about the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. In the same Bhagavad Gita 18.555, it is also said that scientific knowledge of Sri Krishna is understood only by the process of devotional service, Bhakti Yoga.
Comments?
So, Prabhuji, my comment on this one is like we were discussing in the previous lectures as well, and like Bhakti Yoga, it's supposed to be the most easiest yoga. It's not like the Hatha Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga, but if it's easy if we understand the process correctly. If we do not understand the process, then it becomes very difficult because the Bhakti Yoga, the foremost important thing, as per me, my understanding is that the surrender. You have to surrender to the Lord, and if you think that I am the doer and I will be able to understand Bhakti Yoga the way I want to do it, then it becomes very difficult. If we just surrender to the Lord and let Him be the doer and we be the follower of His instructions, then it becomes very easy to follow the process of Bhakti Yoga. And another thing in this paragraph is mentioned that the man like animals. So in this age of Kali Yuga, we see we have hypocrisy, we have lust and gambling, all these things, meat eating. So all these things are done by humans. They are human species. But can we really call them humans? So the man-like animal, I think, is the most appropriate word here to describe such people. So we have to surrender to the Lord, follow the Bhakti Yoga, and also make sure that we follow the regulative principles described by Srila Prabhupada: no intoxication, no meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, and follow the process of bhakti. Try to get the association with the devotee. We are lucky that we have this Sunday sadhu sanga on every Sunday. So this is my understanding, that if we can follow this process and keep surrendering to the Lord and do not try much, just stick to the path, then we will be able to progress in the bhakti and deliver eventually.
So that's a good point. I want to throw this out and invite anybody to respond. Bhakti Yoga, easy or hard? Or what's easy about it, what's hard about it? The impersonalists say it's very easy, but yet they don't take it up. If it's so easy, why don't they take it up? So it must not be as easy as what they think it is. So anyone want to comment? Bhakti Yoga, yoga, love and devotion, easy or hard? It's certainly easy if you don't worry about regulative principles. But
Well,
then,
I would say it is.
but then it's not really Bhakti Yoga, is it?
Well, I would say it is simple but not easy.
Can you explain that?
And see, the process, there's black and white. And I think, as we see for our philosophy, it's not a sequential or a linear philosophy. It's more like a spiral. In our Gita class yesterday, we were discussing that in our philosophy, Prabhupada time and again reiterated the message, the important messages, right? It's not like that this is a straight path or a linear path, just follow it. There are emphasis given to association. There are emphasis given to fixing your mind. There is emphasis given between the distinction one could make between mind and intelligence. So I would say that these four regulative principles Prabhupada had mentioned, and the process of chanting, the process of association with devotees, if you see, it's all simple, like it's not rocket science. The issue is it's not easy. And the reason I say it's not easy is because of the distractions that we have in our life.
Okay, that's good. Simple, but not easy. What else? What do the rest of you say? Rob, what's your impression so far, Bhakti Yoga, through your COVID haze right now?
Yes, I'm definitely hazy, so hopefully this isn't too unintelligent.
Take that into consideration.
I definitely agree with Kapil Prabhu that it is simple, like it is very simple in concept, but living in this age of Kali Yuga, and especially myself, having been mired in the material and in Maya for so long, shifting my paradigm towards bhakti, while it is simple, it is challenging, and Maya creeps up constantly and is a constant challenge that has to be battled. So yeah, that's why I think it's difficult as well. So I agree.
Okay. So Rob's coming from a point of view of a Westerner like myself. We had no restrictions on us in our earlier life. And then all of a sudden we come to Krishna consciousness. And the idea is very simple. Learn to love God and through him love other living beings. But then to get past all of your vast history and all is not so easy. It's not quickly done. But Sarabi, you're coming from a more restrained, self-controlled culture. You didn't have the access to unlimited meat eating, intoxication, things like that. From that point of view, what are the challenges in Bhakti Yoga?
As Kapil Prabhu has said that it's easy, it's not easy. But what I would say, in my mom's and grandmom's age, it was pretty easy, and somewhat for us too, because every time something bad is happening, our grandma or mother will say, it's in the hands of God, it's in the hands of God. So we grew up listening that. So there was less distraction for sure. But now when I go to India, I see my niece and nephews, they are looking at Western, they are distracted with many things, and they say that, okay, religion, give the freedom to us and all that thing. So now there is more distraction, but in our, when we were growing up, I don't think it was that much of a distraction. And, we start believing in God as early as we were born, because everything what we are hearing continuously from our family is like, it's in the hand of God, it's in the hand of God. So whatever comes, if bad is coming to you, take it as a prasad of God. So you have a strong belief there. That's what I would say.
So growing up in a society which is basically faith-based, um, it helps you be comfortable with Krishna consciousness. There are elements that are familiar to you. It's not such a big transition. It's not such a big shift. Probably the challenge is to do it more seriously rather than just being on a platform of sentiment, to actually get up in the morning, 10 Mangalarti, chant 16 rounds a day, read scriptures, associate devotees. There is a tendency, I think, amongst those who are brought up in that faith-based culture to take it for granted and just sort of say, yeah, I know, and I don't need to work on improving my devotion. I'm okay because it's been around me, it's been part of me since I was born. And we find that a lot of people get stuck there. They fail to progress in bhakti because they're not willing to continue their journey based on the scriptural injunctions and the practices of sadhana bhakti. It remains sentiment. It doesn't thicken into a real relationship between them and God.
For sure, we take it for granted for some time, but then you get back and you start valuing your grandmother and grandparents.
Yeah, that's what Prabhupada's strategy was. The Krishna consciousness is embedded in the Indian culture, but I think people were just sort of taking it for granted and working more diligently on acquiring Western technology than they were in practicing seriously their heritage of Krishna consciousness. And so Prabhupada thought that if he went to the West and got Western boys and girls who were born basically with silver spoons in their mouths and got them to adopt the practice of Krishna consciousness, then that would cause Indian people to take a closer, more serious look at it. And that certainly was a fact. In the early days of Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada got all Western devotees. But once the Western devotees accompanied Prabhupada back to India and started working in India, we see more and more Indians, high-class, educated Indians. Many graduates from IIT are now filling many of the topmost positions in the movement, which means they've gone from the sentimental level to the actual scriptural practicing level. What do you think, Omkar, about this? You're in a PhD program at University of Utah. So how do you balance material ambition and spiritual life? You do an excellent job of it, by the way. Everyone's so impressed with your devotional qualities, and although we're not much aware of it, you must have a pretty grueling schedule also in the course of getting your PhD.
Hare Krishna, Vadananda Pranam. Is that only due to mercy of all my seniors that I'm able to do whatever I'm able to do here. Without their blessings, it's very difficult for me. I feel what you point mentioned was correct. Even I agree with Kapil Prabhu also that bhakti is simple, but it's not easy. The simplicity is in the process, but the problem is I heard my spiritual master was saying one time that bhakti process is simple, but the problem is we are not simple. Our mind and false egos are too complicated to accept the simple process of bhakti. Srila Prabhupada told just keep chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. But if I look inside myself, how long I am able to chant, after some time I just become uh, actually externally get bored. So I want some engagement, some activity. doing some other things. So I feel very sorry for myself that even it's so simple, but I'm not able to follow this simple. I myself too complicated. So that's the problem with me. And as far as spiritual and material duties are concerned, I read one article from Chaitanya Charan Prabhu in his Gita Daily that I guess someone had asked him that is the material duties is a problem for spiritualists, and he answered that your service to Krishna, the material duties may also be service to Krishna. It not be a different from. So your spiritual duties and material duties can be a combined service to Krishna. So a spiritualist who is working outside and who is not a monk, he should consider his external duties also a service to Krishna. So the combined fruits he can offer to Krishna, and Krishna will be happy to accept those. So with this, he should also look at a sadhana with service. So with this vision, if he works, then he will be very satisfied and not disturbed that I'm not able to do anything while I'm away. So I really like that article, and I try to follow that, and I'm also having very happy that I am this I got to know about this principle. So this was, thank you.
That's a very good comment. Um, Bhakti Yoga means to engage, to be educated, to accumulate knowledge, to be a Brahmin means to be in the mode of goodness. Brahmins are especially self-controlled. They're especially learned in society. Um, there's nothing about Bhakti Yoga which encourages one to be lazy or uneducated or just a vague sentimentalist. Krishna is everywhere, and everything can be dovetailed in Krishna's service. And so Prabhupada was very proud of his disciples who had PhDs, who had credentials in scientific circles, engineering circles, architectural circles. Um, any and all of those occupations can be dovetailed in Krishna's service. Architects can build beautiful temples, and engineers can assist in the construction of beautiful buildings and edifices. Poets can write poetry for Krishna. Chemists, Bhakti Swarup Damodar, one of Prabhupada's original disciples, wrote a book called Scientific Basis of Krishna Consciousness. I remember that book had just been published one time shortly before Prabhupada came to Australia, and he showed a copy of that book to everyone he met. He met with some big scientists and philosophers and priests in Australia, and everyone he met, he showed that book, Scientific Basis for Krishna Consciousness. So his rule of thumb was, if someone was finishing up a graduate degree, Prabhupada would say, don't stop, don't give it up, finish it up, and then be influential in that field for promoting Krishna consciousness. On the other hand, if someone was just, say, starting in year one for a 4 or 5 or 6 year program, Prabhupada would say, don't waste your time. Don't waste your time. If you're just starting and you've got so much ahead of you in order to get this material qualification, life is uncertain. No one is even certain that you'll live that long. So just go into Krishna consciousness right away. Don't waste time for higher education. But if you're, 2/3, 3/4, 7/8 the way through it, then by all means, finish, get your degree, and then become a very prominent scientist or engineer architect so that everybody knows that you're a Krishna devotee. And that way you can have a good influence among the more affluent, influential segment of society. Otherwise, I don't know how much you're aware, but there's a Bhakti Fest. I think they had their 10th year last year, or maybe 2 years ago. It might have been canceled for the last 2 years. But the Bhakti Fest, if you look at videos of it, a lot of chanting. They're all vegans. They're all raw vegans. And there's a lot of kirtan. And there are many good things about it. There are many mode of goodness things about it. But at the same time, those people don't follow any scriptural path. They don't practice sadhana, rising up early in the morning, worshiping the deities, attending Mangalarti, chanting 16 rounds, offering their food. They're very much attracted to the mode of goodness, but at the same time, they're not attracted. In fact, you'd probably get a lot of pushback from most of those attendees at the Bhakti Fest if you suggested that they systematically cultivate their bhakti according to scriptural authorities. I think those would be some of the people most against doing that because they insist on it being something sentimental, something easy, something cheap. And one thing you always hear amongst the Bhakti Fest people is, what do they say? Taste the bhav, taste the bhav. Or right away, you hear that and you know, oh man, these people are really cheapening. Like you can just go to a weekend festival, dance to a few kirtans, eat some vegan food, do some yoga classes, and then you're in the bhav. Well, if you're approaching that from a scriptural point of view, no, that's totally misleading and misdirecting. So what's hard about bhakti yoga is doing it properly, not doing it based on sentiment or whimsy, but doing it based on scripture. The concept is simple, like you said, Kapil. Love. Well, who doesn't like love? Who's not attracted to love? Love is the reason we get out of bed in the morning. Love is what makes the world go round. But love is not always easy. Sentimental love, infatuation, love motivated by lust. Yeah, but that doesn't last. When you need, sometimes you don't feel like loving, but you still have to do it even though you don't feel like it. So going to a weekend festival with lots of girls and boys and lots of yoga teachers and lots of brouhaha, that's easy. It's easy to get up for feeling that. But when you're home in your apartment, getting up early in the morning, chanting your rounds, going to the temple, that takes some trouble and you don't always feel like it. So you can't do bhakti yoga just when you feel like doing it. You have the advancement comes when you're doing bhakti yoga and you don't feel like doing it. That's when you make advancement. That's when you get Krishna's attention. So thoughts any more on this subject? Easy, hard? Kapil, can we rotate back to you again?
Go for it. I just wanted to add, like, it's if I just kind of like to tie concepts to things I experience, and one of the things that I'm like all of my friends that are students and everyone that's ever been a student experiences is when you learn a concept in class, and the concept is very simple, right? Whether it's algebra, chemistry, whatever, it's a very simple concept. You go home to apply that to homework, and it feels like like when you were writing down the notes, you feel like you're taking very good notes because you understand what they're saying. You go back to apply that thing to your homework, and the next thing you know, you're frantically calling your friends because you have no idea how to do the problem. So I think that there's this, like, it's easy to understand sometimes, but as soon as you go to apply that to your own life, like for example, for me, 1 or 2 years ago, it was very easy for me to criticize somebody else's chanting, like you didn't chant in the morning, or you missed a syllable right there, that kind of stuff. New Year's resolution of 2021, I decided to do 6 rounds every day. And then I've noticed that it's not like it's easy to criticize, or it's easy to understand that it's just like, make sure you pronounce all 16 syllables, make sure you're in a place where you're only focusing on Krishna and not doing a secondary thing. And then as soon as you go and you try that, then you, like, every single thing, every homework that you assignment that you haven't done, as soon as you sit down to do chanting, you're like, oh shoot, I had that class, or like I had to finish this assignment or whatever. So I feel like it's there's a lot of concepts that are easy to kind of or understand, but as soon as you come to like apply them to your life, they become a lot, not harder, but a lot more like difficult to complete.
There you go. There's the concept, and then there's the application. And the application may be a lot more difficult and challenging the concept. Think of a comment, Kapil. In the meantime, I'm going to share some thoughts here. Amy Hedman, she says, this is great. And then she makes another comment on Facebook. I was thinking this today. This is the reason greater teachers cross our path. It's like Krishna hearing my prayer and answering and giving me the reason to step up and do the work. Very, very nice to the point comment. Thank you, Amy. And William Griffith, he says, I have noticed, at least here in Los Angeles, a thirst for Eastern teachings. It seems among even many Christians that the West have left them starving for something deeper. Krishna provides a feast for that spiritual hunger. And I think the elements, all the elements of Bhakti Yoga, they're easy because who doesn't like singing? Who doesn't like dancing? Who doesn't like feasting? Who doesn't like associating with other spiritually minded people? Who doesn't like music? Who doesn't like playing instruments? Who doesn't like seeing the beautiful form of the deity on the altar? Who doesn't like doing dramas? Who doesn't like discussing the absolute truth? There isn't any aspect of Krishna consciousness which is unpleasant or unpalatable. So in that sense, it's easy. In that sense, it's simple. It's all about love. And even the impersonalists, even the monists, the elements of Krishna conscious practice are so pleasing that most of the impersonalists, even though they don't believe in a personal aspect of God, they have deities at home. And they'll do arti, they'll make flower gardens for the deities, they'll sometimes even offer their food, just because it's so pleasing, it's so pleasant. You know, kirtan, for instance, even an atheist can chant kirtan. It doesn't matter what your doctrine is, what your denomination is, what your philosophy is. Kirtan is just a darn good way to get together with people and enjoy, sing and dance, having a spiritual focus, a purificatory focus. So taking separately or taking all together, all these activities are so pleasing. There's no way that anybody could object to them. But if you read Prabhupada's books, who's a realized pure devotee, what he's calling us to do is to do it without any cessation, to do it without any motivation and without any interruption. So when we think, okay, I love dancing, I love chanting, I love prasadam, I love associating with devotees, I love philosophy, but when we think that in order to transcend the modes of material nature, we need to be 100% on the platform of bhakti, forsaking passion, ignorance, and even goodness itself. There's that little gulp. Oh my gosh, that's scary. I don't know if I could commit myself, heart and soul, to something like that. What are you committing? You're committing the absolute truth. You're committing to that from whom everything comes. There isn't anything in this material world which hasn't got its origin in Krishna. Beauty, wealth, intelligence, insight, intimacy, empathy, creativity, whatever it may be, it resides within the body of Krishna. So our difficulty, what's hard, is to see everything integratedly, because we think that if we dedicate ourselves 24/7 to Krishna, there's something we'll be missing out on. That's our problem, because Krishna encompasses, he contains everything. You need to roll up your sleeves, tighten your belt, muster up your faith, and get in a good association so that you can always be immune right in the middle of Krishna and Krishna's devotee and Krishna's temples, so that you just get carried along by the waves, by the river of bhakti. You don't have to even think about what it would be like not to engage in Krishna's service all the days of your life. Kapil, any thoughts?
Oh, it's such a nice discussion. I like the Ishan's example, and I'm more happy that he didn't tell that whom he used to criticize for the chanting. We'll keep it for the one of the next sessions. But as we are talking about this mode of goodness, last time we talked about this analogy that if you have the perfect, we only have three basic colors, the RGB, and once you combine them nicely, that can create or translate into these 8 million plus species. And in that discussion last week, we also talked about when you are in goodness, one of the important characteristic is the person start understanding the real knowledge. Because if you don't understand the real knowledge, it's hard for you to aspire and reach to that destination. Krishna, he makes our job very easy. In the 13th chapter, I think in the 13th chapter, Krishna describes what is true knowledge. And part of that is he talks about these modes, especially the mode of goodness, being the launching pad, not the destination that one wants to aspire, that I just want to be in the goodness, attain this Brahminical state, and that's it. I think our process of bhakti is a step further. And that step is using that mode of goodness or the Brahminical stage as the launching pad to go to the next level, which is the pure bhakti, being like a Vaishnav, just focusing on it. In our conversation, it's also like fixing the mind that came again in this verse. And in our Gita class yesterday, we were talking about that people try to use their intelligence, and there is nothing wrong. I think it's Krishna's mercy that we have the intelligence. But just by using your intelligence, can we achieve that Shuddh Sattva or the sublime love? The answer is no. I think that is just by fixing your mind on Krishna. In our previous discussions, we talked about it's one thing to remember Krishna, but the more important is to never forget him. And I think that's the aspect that sometimes we forget. And I think that is
So
the
you're saying the easy part is remembering Krishna from time to time. The hard part is never forgetting him. That's brilliant.
It's always easy to remember when you make a mistake, and then you're like, "Hey, why did you do this to me?" And then as soon as like you start facing triumph, you're like, "Yeah, that was me."
Well, chanting Hare Krishna, I mean, there's nothing unpleasant about it. It's just ecstatic. Eating prasadam, there's nothing unpleasant about it. Associating with devotees, nothing unpleasant about it. So that's all that's all in the category of remembering Krishna. So that's easy. Remembering Krishna is easy. But never forgetting him, that's scary. That's scary, right? Am I wrong?
it
Never
is
forgetting him. That's what's hard about bhakti yoga. It's not the remembering from time to time part. It's not the remembering during the pleasant activities, but it's never forgetting him, which means filling up 24 hours a day in Krishna consciousness. And that's hard, but it can be very easy when you associate with devotees. They have the Kumbh Mela every 8 years. 30 million people gather to take a bath in the Ganges. And it goes for about 30 days, but there's 8 hours when the constellations are aligned. So if you take a bath during these 8 hours, you get the maximum purification. So as soon as those constellations are aligned, the better part of 30 million start moving towards the Ganges. And if you're in that crowd, you don't even have to worry about putting one foot in front of another. That mass of people, you don't even have to have your feet on the ground. You'll just be carried in the midst of those people into the purificatory waters of the Ganges. So as daunting as the prospect of never forgetting Krishna is, actually it's very easy if you just put yourself in the close association of devotees. That's the key. Sadhu Sanga Lava Mata Shava Shastahai Lava Mata Sadhu Sanga Sarvasiddhai. Sadhu Sanga, associating with devotees. Sadhu Sanga, twice, thrice emphasized. Sarva Siddhihai. All the scriptures say that the highest perfection of life is to associate with devotees. Sadhu Sanga Sarva Siddhihai. If you're really intelligent and you really want to live in such a way that you not only remember Krishna, but you never forget him, seek after, hanker after the association of devotees. Okay, let me read this, and Rob, let's get your reaction on this, Rob, okay? Although non-devotees declare, Prabhupada's writing, although non-devotees declare that the path of bhakti is very easy, they cannot practice it. If the path of bhakti is so easy as the non-devotee class of men proclaim, then why do they take up the difficult path? Actually, the path of bhakti is not easy. The so-called path of bhakti practiced by unauthorized persons without knowledge of bhakti may be easy. But when it is practiced factually according to the rules and regulations, the speculative scholars and philosophers fall away from the path. Rupa Goswami writes in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Shmuti Smiti Pananadi Pancharatra Vidhimbira Aikantiki Hare Bhaktir Upatyaya Kalpate. Devotional service of the Lord that ignores the authorized Vedic scriptures like the Upanishads, Puranas, and Narada Pancharatra is simply an unnecessary disturbance in society. Now, here it states that bhakti should be based on the scriptures, and I know, Rob, you've been following Wisdom of the Sages, where every morning they read several verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam, a beautiful story, the absolute truth. So what are your thoughts on this purport by Sula Prabhupada here?
I would definitely say that they're confusing easy for simple again. Because I mean, if you're just going to be insincere about it, I suppose, then yeah, you could interpret it as easy. Oh, just divine love, just chant your rounds and that's it. But like he also said, if you're going to follow it scripturally, then that requires a much higher level of dedication, and not just dedication, but we've been so brainwashed in this Western philosophy of life that changing that brainwashing and rewashing your brain toward a more bhakti oriented mindset is difficult. That is absolutely difficult, to change the entire way you're living, to live in a completely different way. I suppose there's some people out there that can just flick a switch and it just changes for them and they can just rededicate themselves to this new lifestyle. But me personally, changing the way that I think about things and everything, I have to change the way I think about everything. And surrendering fully unto it is a challenge. And it's a daily thing. It's a moment to moment thing. Like every moment is another opportunity to surrender and shift towards a more bhakti oriented lifestyle, and to adhere to the scriptures is very challenging. And so I would not agree that it's easy at all.
Have you ever run across anybody who says, man, chanting rounds, getting up early in the morning, it's about love, man. It's about the feeling. You shouldn't have to force it. You shouldn't have to have mechanics involved. Why should I chant rounds to evoke love, man? Love is a feeling. It's not about practice. You ever met anybody like that would love to be part of kirtan, would love to go to, say, a weekend festival and all, but really, really push back for any systematic practice of bhakti? You ever met anybody like that?
Oh, plenty. And I've even been guilty of it myself. And where I'm at now, I just see that as an unwillingness to commit to doing the work, to putting in the footwork to actually get to the real heart of the matter, to the real truth of what that love is. It's kind of similar to like faith without works is dead. Like if you're not, like, love is very similar. If you're not going to practice love, if you're not going to work towards love, it's not a noun, it's a verb. You have to act on it.
No, go ahead. I mean, I love your insight. Exactly.
It's a lot of it's just me reminding me that I need to act on this. I can't just sit back and be like, yeah, I love everybody. Love's great. And it's just a feeling. While that may be a stepping stone, having that feeling, that it's a starting point. But in order to nurture that and really develop that into a true sense of actual love, especially divine love, it's something that has to be worked for, and it's something that has to be worked for in every moment of the day, especially if you've been as brainwashed as I am into Western society.
I think I love what you said about love being a verb. It's not a noun. It's not something that happens to you. It's something you work at. You know, you stand at the altar and you promise in sickness and health, happiness and distress, wealth and poverty, I will dedicate myself to you. And that means not just the good times, not just when the feeling comes, but when the feeling's not there, that you have to still be able to love as a function of character. Why? Because you promised to do it. You promised to do it in health and in sickness. You promised. You promised to do it in wealth and in poverty. So that because you made a promise and you are defined, you are only as good as your promises. Therefore, bhakti, the practice of divine love, is to be done especially when you don't feel like it. Not only is it to be done when you don't feel like it, but that's when you make special advancement, is when you do it and you don't feel like it, because then you're doing it on the basis of character. You're making true on your promises.
You really water it down. It's like I promised my brother that, yeah, like I love you, and then the next day he needs help with homework, and then I'm like, no, dude, I promise I love you. Like, don't worry about it. And like, you don't go and actually help him with his homework, or like if he needs something from the top shelf that he can't reach, and you're like sitting down watching TV, you're like, no, I promise, like I love you, and you don't actually go over there and like take down what he needs.
It's like going to the altar and saying, I promise to love and cherish you whenever I feel like it, and not otherwise, you know, or I'll be faithful to you 6 days a week, you know. I'll honor and respect you most of the time, 20 hours a day, but the other 4 hours a day I'm going to do whatever I want. So love is a function of character. It's not a function of just feelings or sentiment. It may start there, it will start there, but it needs to go a lot further. It needs to stretch itself a lot further in order to taste the fruits of love of God. And ultimately, love is something that's given to us by Krishna. We're blessed with divine love. It's not something we earn. It's something that through service, through consistency, through doing things, even when we don't feel like doing them, but doing them anyway, that we gain the favor of Krishna, and then Krishna touches us, and in that association, divine love awakens. And it's supernatural. There's nothing material. There's no material state of consciousness or temperament that you can compare someone who's been blessed with divine love. It's totally beyond anything that we can experience in this material world. In this material world, relationships are interrupted. They're also motivated. I love you because you stimulate me. You give me sense gratification. When you no longer give me sense gratification, then divorce takes place. So we can't even imagine what being blessed by divine love for Krishna is like. There's nothing to compare it to in this material world. Only thing we have here is basically a perverted reflection of that divine love. Says that bamboo and sugarcane look similar, but when you chew sugarcane, you actually get nice juice. But when you chew the bamboo, you just break your teeth, even though they look visually they're similar. So Amy asked the question, and anybody can answer this. I wondered if one is not going to follow the path fully and immediately, is there any point in furthering one's learning? Very good question. Arjuna asked that same question to Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Kachin nobaya viparascha, 6th chapter. Chinabrami apratishto mahabhavo vimudo brahmanam pati. Can anyone answer that question? If you're not going to pursue it wholeheartedly and fully as a committed practitioner, maybe it's better you not even start in the beginning. Anybody want to field that one? Onkar? You
So
there?
my understanding is, I think it comes from Bhagavad Gita, that do it even if you're not doing it wholeheartedly, it's better to do imperfectly than trying to imitate someone else and then follow their path or follow their processes without understanding it. Because once you are on this path, Krishna time and again, he says that there is no loss. Even if you are not able to reach your final destination, you'll start where you end your journey. So, and then the best part of this process is you may start this process half-heartedly, but as you progress, it will fill with love, because that's the purity part of this process, especially with the association, especially with doing with a bona fide spiritual master. Slowly you'll start developing those, as we discussed last time, that there are a lot of byproducts, and those byproducts are not only the material byproducts, which is the happiness, contentment, confidence, conviction. It's also the byproducts, the purification part of it. When you were talking about the love, you were asking that question about people telling you that it's a feeling, why are you chanting, it's within myself and I can feel the presence. But within ourselves there are a lot of contaminations as well, and this process, even if you start half-heartedly, by doing it on a constant basis, that will help you remove those impurities or contaminations, and then slowly I think it will take you at least a step further.
So, Robbie, what are your thoughts on the serious daily practice of bhakti? Is it something that if you think you may not be able to follow through, better not to have endeavored in the first place? What do you think?
I will start anyways. If I fall in between, I don't care. I will get up and do it again. So some resilience there needed, but I will start.
Krishna
Without thinking about failures and all that. Today, I want to do it. I feel like doing it. I will do it.
yeah, this is a big, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Prabhu, you finish it. Go for it, Prabhu.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Okay. This is actually a huge question, and it's a very good question Amy has asked. And Krishna devotes a lot of verses to answering this question. First of all, the kind of scary image that Arjuna paints is you see a big mass of clouds in the sky, and then a little part of that big cloud separates from the big cloud. So the big cloud is like you're practicing bhakti yoga, maybe you're associating with devotees, taking prasadam, and you're part of, like, say, iskcon, all right? But then you develop a separate interest. Either you get distracted, or maybe some family issue happens where you can no longer associate with devotees as much as you could. Maybe you have to take care of an ailing mother or travel to some distant place for your business, whatever. So you're like that. Then you separate, and by choice or by circumstances, you separate from that big cloud. Now, as soon as a part of that big cloud separates and becomes a smaller cloud, it's very vulnerable. It's just a wisp of a cloud. And what happens in short order is that the air more and more permeates that wisp of a cloud. And as we look at it, it disappears. So Arjuna asks, what happens if we embark upon the serious practice of devotional service under the guidance of a spiritual master according to scriptural authorities, and then we separate and we break off, and then we cease and desist our practices? Is not the position of such a person like that of a riven cloud with no position in any sphere? In other words, we haven't gone 100% to the point of getting divine, transcendental, eternal love for Krishna. But at the same time, while we've been seriously practicing devotional service, maybe rising earlier, attending temple functions and all, we may have been losing ground in the material rat race. We may have been failing to keep up with our competitors, our peers, and our contemporaries. So we've fallen back in terms of our bank balance, in terms of the size of our apartment, in terms of the luxury of the car we drive. So then is the position of such a person not undefined? They lost all that time materially, which they may never get back, and then they also didn't achieve spiritual success. So Krishna has so many verses to reassure someone. And even Jesus Christ said, what profiteth a man if they gain the whole world and lose their eternal soul? And Narada Muni also said, Chakva Sharanam Charanam Bhujam Bhajana Pakvatapadet Yatra Ka Vabada Buddhi Mishim Kovartaptam Bhajatasha Dharmaha. Narada Muni says, even if you practice spiritual life seriously and then retreat, cease and desist, he says, what is the loss? That's what life is for. That's the only ultimate goal, is to attain the lotus feet of Krishna. There is nothing else worthwhile. Material pursuits are all destined to disappear in the sands of time. Mental speculation is just that. It's just material gymnastics on the mental platform. The only fruit which we are to taste and attain is love of God. So if one endeavors 2%, 4%, 6%, then he says, what is the loss? On the other hand, if you're the prime minister, the CEO, the king, what is the gain if you have no scintilla of God consciousness? If you have not dedicated at least a percentage of your life in the pursuit of God consciousness. And then Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita also, Neha Brikama Nasasi Pratyabhaya Shravampiya Shadamasa Trayate Mato Bhayak. He says, in this endeavor there is no loss or diminution. It is said, even a small advancement on this path saves one from the greatest danger. What is one such great danger that one is saved from by practicing partially, fragmentally practicing? Well, one danger is one doesn't have to take birth in the animal species next life. I don't know about you, but I like being inside with central air in the summer and central heating in the winter. I like having the freedom not to be struggling 24 hours a day to find a place to sleep, to find a place, something to eat, to defend myself, to produce children. I like not being a bird that has to go around all day long finding twigs to make a nest, and finding little seeds lie in the ground to feed oneself, dealing with the cold of the winter, sitting in a tree when it's 10 degrees outside. You know, I like the advantages of the human form of life, and I would like to be a human form in my next life too. The freedom, the latitude we have in the human form of life, which is not given to the animals, is meant for executing God consciousness. So if you don't execute, at least to some degree, God consciousness in this current human form of life, why in the world would you get that valuable asset next time around? You would have to fall back down to one of the lower species of life because of having squandered the rare and valuable opportunity of the human form of life. So even partial practice of Krishna consciousness saves one from the greatest danger, which specifically is to drop back down amongst the lower species of life. Any other thoughts on this subject matter? So we've had a lot of good input from our Facebook side. Would everybody agree? I love it that Amy has kept this running dialogue going here. Sarabi, do you want to read the next paragraph in the purport?
Prabhu,
Sure.
Yes,
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
yes.
Prabhu, shall I take a moment?
So you do what?
We have I would just like to take a shot. I just want to introduce you with the new visitor today. His name is Rahul Prabhu. He just moved from India to University of Utah. He is a devotee from India, and his name is Rahul Prabhu, and we are very happy to have him. We have now one student in the University of Utah who is a devotee here.
Because your mask is
Krishna,
on,
Prabhu.
I couldn't understand his name exactly. Rahul. What is it?
Rahul Prabhu. Rahul.
Rahul.
R-A-H-U-L.
Rahul. Okay. Nice.
R-A-H-U-L.
Rahul.
Rahul. And which temple
My name is. I'm actually coming.
were you frequenting? The iskcon?
I used to follow Swarnagari Prabhu, who is in ICC Bangalore.
Oh, okay. ICC.
Bangalore temple.
There's two
I
temples.
went to Abid's temple in Hyderabad. And,
Nice. And did you bump into Omkar on campus or at the temple?
No, here at the temple.
I just met him. I just happened that some visitors were there, so I happened to meet him. So I thought I will introduce with you.
Well, it's nice to meet you, Rahul. You're welcome to join
It's
us
great meeting you.
on Sundays on Zoom. Ankar can give you the password. We also have an in-person
Okay.
gathering Saturday nights at 7 o'clock, which attracts a nice group of people.
Okay.
Welcome to Salt Lake City. We hope that your Krishna consciousness will progress further while you're here. Right,
Rahul, welcome to Salt Lake. Good to see you.
so everybody knows Rahu now. See him and his name.
Okay.
So Ravi, do you
Hare
want to,
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, do you want to read the next paragraph here?
Yes. The very same thing is confirmed herein in the above words. No ordinary man or even one who has attained success in human life can know scientifically or perfectly the personality of Godhead. Perfection of human life is attained when one can understand that he is not the product of matter but is in fact spirit. And as soon as one understands that he has nothing to do with the matter, he at once ceases his material hankering and becomes enlivened as a spiritual being. The attainment of success is possible when one is above the modes of passion and ignorance, or in other words, when one is actually Brahmana by qualification. A Brahmana is the symbol of Sattva Guna or mode of goodness, and others who are not in the mode of goodness are either Kshatriya, Vaishyas, Sudras, or less than the Sudras. The Brahmanical stage is the highest stage of human life because of its good qualities. So one cannot be a devotee unless one at least qualifies as a Brahmana. The devotee is already a Brahmana by action, but that is not the end of it. As referred to the above, such as Brahmana has to become Vaishnava, in fact, to be actually in the transcendental stage. A pure Vaishnava is liberated soul and is transcendental even to the position of Brahmana. In the material stage, even a Brahmana is also a conditioned soul because although in the Brahmanical stage, the conception of Brahmana or transcendence is realized, scientific knowledge of Supreme Lord is lacking. One has to surpass the Brahmanical stage and reach the Vasudeva stage to understand the personality of Godhead Krishna. The science of personality of Godhead is the subject matter for study by the postgraduate students in spiritual line. Foolish men or men with a poor fund of knowledge do not understand the Supreme Lord and they interpret Krishna according to their respective whims. The fact is, however, that one cannot understand the science of personality of Godhead unless one is freed from the contamination of material modes. Even up the stage of Brahmana, when a qualified Brahmana factually becomes a Vaishnava, is in leavened state of liberation, he can know what is actually the personality of Godhead is.
Any thoughts on that, Sarabi?
So you already mentioned that you want a human body again to worship and to get connected and all that. So I think this paragraph is talking about having that and going to the above and beyond the Brahmana state.
Super, nice. Rob, you have any thoughts on that? What it takes to be a Brahmin and how a lover of the Lord is even beyond the Brahminical stage, and that's scientific. It's not sentiment, it's scientific.
For me, it just makes me feel incredibly ignorant and of low intelligence. But I guess there's kind of hope in that statement as well, that if I continue to pursue this path in this life and the next coming lives, that eventually one day I can achieve an understanding of Krishna through devotion and love through him. If I'm understanding
I think the
correctly.
understanding is there from the beginning. It's very elaborately described, almost, within one chapter, the Srimad Bhagavatam, one basically can know more about God than in all of Judaism, Christianity, Muslimism, and every other scripture of the world. And that's not to say we're sectarian or divisive, but it's just to say that this knowledge is more elaborate, more comprehensive, more expansive than what's available in any other scripture of the world, and everybody should take advantage of it in order to become a better Muslim, a better Christian, and so on and so on and so forth. But the interesting juxtaposition is that one should scientifically know the Lord by transcending the mode of goodness. In other words, we're saying that love becomes a science. Love becomes a science. When in normal course of affairs, we think of love on the one hand and science on the other hand, and ne'er the twain shall meet. Science can't explain the sentiments, the emotions of love. Someone said, I think it was Chaitanya Charani said, science is the study of matter and spirit is the study of what matters. So love is basically at the core of who we are. We are created by the Lord who loves us and who wants us to love him in return. So that is the Bahunam Jamanamante. After many, many births of getting Nobel Prizes and PhDs, one comes to this realization that that knowledge and love are not separate, that knowledge is only useful insofar as it leads us to the lotus feet of Krishna. Krishna is the personification of knowledge, bliss, and eternity. So ultimately, knowledge is a person. And if we don't develop love for that person who is knowledge, then our knowledge remains sterile, unsatisfying, and incomplete. So love is required to complement our knowledge. And the composite of love and knowledge is science. It's the way science means to know, from the Latin scio. Science means to know. Who or what is the ultimate knowable object? We are created solely and primarily in order that we may know our Creator and love him. And the two, the knowing and the loving, are not separate. We've all heard this saying, to know him is to love him. So the more you know about God, the more your love should arise. Otherwise, if you're just cultivating knowledge, accumulating facts and figures and letters after your name, Prabhupada used to say, LSD, PhD, MA, MAD, and that's not directly to Mad Gantain Atmanaha, the ultimate goal of the lotus feet of Krishna, then your knowledge is not serving any useful purpose. It's not making you happy. There needs to be a balance. There needs to be, on the one hand, knowledge, scriptural authority, and on the other hand, there needs to be the sentiments of love, and they should be balanced. You may sentimentally love someone or something, but that can lead to fanaticism. It can be very dangerous. On the other hand, if you're just a mental speculator pursuing the whims of the mind, it's very unsatisfying, dry, and unfulfilling. So one should have equal portion in balance, the scriptural authority as well as the service. That's why we call our spiritual master Bhakti Vedanta. He has the love of God, but he also has the knowledge from the scripture in order to complete that love with factual information from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in any case, hopefully there's been some impetus today in our discussion as we've churned these topics back and forth and over and around, some impetus to take bhakti as a scientific process. And as in any science, you have to follow the experiment through to the end. You can't do it halfway and expect to get gratifying, observable, publishable results. You have to follow all the steps right to the scientific conclusion. So the hypothesis is, and all science starts with a hypothesis, but then you have to practice under the controlled environment which is prescribed in order to prove the hypothesis to be true. So we are said to be spirit souls, part and parcel of the Supreme. We are eternal, full of bliss and knowledge, qualitatively one with the Lord, who is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge. But He is great and we are small. Therefore, that which completes us, that which connects us, that which fulfills us, is as the part we need to then serve the whole. And that service is not 6 days a week. It's not 22 hours a day. If we're going to be everything we were created to be and taste the divine love, which is eternal, ever increasing, experience life as a thrill at every moment, then we have to love 7 days a week. We have to love 24 hours a day under the able guidance of the lover of the Lord, the person Bhagavad, who knows what he's talking about, who has tread the path before us, following in his footsteps. We also can achieve the ultimate perfection of life, awaken divine love of God, taste those fruits, be free of birth, death, old age, and disease, and go back to home, back to God. Om Tat Sat. Any last comments from Surabhi, Rob, Onkar, Kapil, or anything written on Facebook? We've had good input from Bipin Shah. Amy has been driven our whole discussion. We really appreciate your jumping on board, Amy. She says Hare Krishna at the end. There are 18 comments, of which I can only see 4 at the present moment. And those who have liked are Amy, William Griffith, Jayashree, Shah, Radhe Sham, Raquel Castro, Madhava, Rakesh, Nina Ricci, and A Better Love for You. Those are our attendees who have liked. If you have any other thoughts or comments or questions, feel free to type them in the comments section. We'll get back to you as soon as we can.
Oh yeah, I think we came full circle as we started saying that it is simple but not easy. But I think following this process, that too, I think 2 weeks ago we said that it is, you have to do it constantly, whether wholeheartedly or half-heartedly, you have to do it constantly. And when you do it, will it will it make things easier? Answer may be no, but it will definitely help one from this propensity to make things, the simple things, complex. I think that propensity, it will help when you are in the right association, you do it time and again. I think we have this natural tendency or ability to make simple things complex. So I think this is a process to revert that.
To make complex things simple. Yeah, and we all need that. We really need that badly. That alone would be more than enough reason to take our first baby steps in trying to do a daily measured number of rounds, and rise early, offer our food. That alone, to simplify our lives, which are far too complex for our own good nowadays. So speaking of full circle, we've ended up back at the home of the Sharmas, and Govinda Dev told me that Ishan is going to lead our final kirtan. Is that correct?
Yes.
Let's do that then and wind everything up here on this Sunday morning, the weekend after Nityananda Trayodasi. And let me all remind you, there are many, many programs coming online prior and leading up to the appearance day of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna in his own devotional incarnation. That actually comes later on in March, but there are 25 days of programs on Zoom. If you'd like to access some of those programs and learn more about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, go to GBTSPT. GBCSPT. They have a Facebook page and they have a YouTube channel. There are many, many advanced realized speakers who are lined up. I heard an interview between Pancharatna and Sutapa, who's a devotee in London, about the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the biography of Lord Chaitanya by Krishnadas Kaur. It was amazing. They have the whole Chaitanya Rita divided into 8 categories, 8 sections. It's just an amazing, and they're out of London, and they have a website. There's a different program every day for the next 25 days leading up to the appearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So if you want to access those, GBC STP, I'll type it in the comments section here while Ishan is starting his kirtan.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare
Beautiful. You have your own band there. You have your own percussionist, Shivan. You have your kartal player, Benita. And you have your harmonium and vocalist, Ishan. You know, I look at your family, and Benita looks like your sister. She looks so young. What did you do to get such a young wife, Kapil? I'll look forward to when you guys can come on Saturdays and you lead the kirtans and give the talks and everything.
Yes.
It looks like we're coming to the end of the tunnel here now, hopefully.
Yes, bro. Yes.
Getting
And Vinita
close.
got her second dose yesterday.
Oh,
Day before.
Hari bo. All right. So thank you so much for all your comments, Kapil, Ishan, and Surabi, Omkar, Rob, earlier Rakesh as well. And thanks for joining us online. Thanks, Amy, for driving a large part of the discussion. Amy Hedman, Jai Sri Radha. She joined us. We didn't see any comments. Usually she's quite prolific in her comments. But anyway, William and Ali from Los Angeles, Jai Sri Shah, Radhe Sham, Raquel and Sean from Modesto, California, Manteca, Madhavadas, thanks for jumping in, Madhavadas. Rakesh was with us early. Nina Ritchie, and a better love for. A better love YOR. Okay. Thanks everyone for joining us this Sunday. We have this Sanga, Zoom satsang every Sunday at 11 o'clock. You're welcome to join either on Facebook through Caru, Utah, or if you want to contact me by messaging me through Facebook, I can give you the password and username to jump on the Zoom call as well. Oh, here's Shopi coming in from the temple itself.
Hare Krishna.
Oh,
I just came to the temple and I saw the lecture was going on, so I just wanted to just
nice. Shopi was there last night as
pop
well,
in.
doing a double header yesterday and today.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but it's good to see you again. We just saw you last night at the temple, also at the Sunday feast.
Frozen for 1 second, for a little bit, but just frozen.
There you go. Guy. All right, we're just winding up here, Sophie, but thanks for popping in and showing us your face there. Appreciate it. Enjoy your visit to the temple. Invite everyone back a week from now. We also have a talk this afternoon. If you didn't hear it last night, we gave it at the Salt Lake City Temple. It's called This Too Shall Pass. It was very well received last night. So if you haven't heard it, jump in at 5 o'clock, 5:15 this afternoon to hear that same talk, even more polished, even more smooth, given in Spanish for it. Or if you heard it last night and you want to hear it again, I mean, these good things, you can't hear them too much. You know, I personally listen to every single talk at least 6 or 8 times so that I make sure I get it down in my spirit. It's not going to do you a lot of good just to listen to a talk. What you want to do is become the talk. You want to embed, you want to tattoo the theme, the knowledge on your soul, and that requires repetition. You need to, if you hear something that's uplifting, you need to hear it again and again. And when you start getting tired of it, that means that it's actually borne fruit within your innermost spirit. Thanks, Rob. Any last words?
No, no last words. I was actually going to ask if the link could possibly be posted in the WhatsApp for that talk. I tried to get on last night, but it wouldn't load for me for some reason.
Okay, usually Sundari Priya does that. It's on the Facebook page, Caru, Utah. And
unfortunately, I don't. Well, fortunately, actually, in my mind, I don't have Facebook.
Okay. Yeah, I think I can post that myself. I think I have the technological expertise to do that, if I'm not mistaken.
I'll text to you, Prabhu. The link I will text to you.
Okay. Omkar, do you have Rob's contact information, or do you want to just do it right now in the message section of Zoom?
Rob, share your number so we have your number, and then any of us can share that link with you. So I heard the talk last evening. unparalleled.
It was fun giving it, and it was good feedback from people. Good feedback. So I'm looking forward to giving it again tonight. Okay, you have that number, Omkar? You see it, Omkar, there?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for joining
yes.
us.
Oh, give us a second so that we can record the number.
Okay,
Just a second.
I'll just recite a prayer or two while you're recording it. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhubhyavacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Let me make a note myself here. We hope that you recover quickly, Rob.
Thank you. I do too. Today's a better day than the last few days have been, so I think I'm hopefully on the downhill.
Your latter days will be better than your former days. Haribo, Haribo, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare
Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram
Ram,